All right, everyone. Welcome to the Elevate Your Equity podcast, where investors with a special emphasis on couples begin, continue, and deepen their journey to financial freedom together using the powerful vehicle of real estate investing to do it. Today, we have a great guest. We have Kari on the Zoom call with us. Good to see you, Kari. How are you?
Good to see you guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for making time to come in and chat with us. So why don't you give us a little bit of a story about where you came from and where you are right now? And we just want to hear what's new in your world.
So we started a real estate investing company 9 years ago, but when I first met my husband, he had been in the real estate investing space. He owned multifamily property at one point down in West Palm Beach, and he had done lease options and flips, and he had done a little bit of construction. He was a GC at one point. So he built, homes from the ground up. And so when I met him, he was kind of in transition, and I was just starting my medical career really as a physical therapist. I was only like 3 years into it. And I was really, really burnt out already after being 3 years into the medical field, because you're like a slave to your schedule when you're in the medical field. You have patients every half hour, every hour. You're taking documentation home with you because you don't have time to do it while you're treating patients. It's really hard to call in if you've got a full schedule, right? And so it was just really, really demanding. And I worked in a couple of different areas, which were physically and emotionally demanding too, like spinal cord injury and traumatic brain injury and pediatrics. And while it was really, really rewarding, I would look forward to Friday evening when I would have the 2 days off. And so when I met my husband, Howie, he was kind of just transitioning back into the IT. He's a IT consultant. And we wanted to start a family. And, I was telling him all the things that I wanted to do with our family. I wanted to travel in the summers. I wanted to go to Europe. I wanted to homeschool. I wanted to do all these things that my job wasn't going to allow me to do. And we were sitting on the couch, and he like grabbed my shoulders and looked me in the eyes, and he said, "Kari, we're never going to have that life if we continue with our 9-to-5 jobs." And so we decided at that point that I was going to leave my medical career and I was going to jump into real estate, because Howie had been in real estate before. And he's like, "We need to get into real estate, and you would be really good at it. And we're going to get educated, and I'm going to fully support you leaving your job, and we're just going to do this." And it was really tough going from 2 jobs to 1. And I was like 5 months pregnant with our first baby when we did this. And so financially, it was a huge stretch for us. Plus, I had no knowledge of real estate whatsoever. I had never owned real estate before. We were renting at the time. Honestly, the only thing that I had owned up until that point was like my beat up Volkswagen. I don't even know what it was, but it was like a beat up car that I bought for $2,000. And I was all excited that I owned something outright. But before all this, I was kind of leading the like young adult, irresponsible life, like get out of college and just start. I was just traveling. Like that's what I spent my paychecks on, was traveling. I had nothing left over at the end of the day. But that all changes when you have kids, and it's no longer about you. It's about the other people in your life. So we really started to sit down and say like, okay, how can we create this life that we want to live while growing our family? And we thought real estate was going to be what could do that for us. So I left. It took a year of like educating myself. I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I had a lot of fears. I was jumping into something that was totally different from medical. And I flipped 2 properties, and I think I wholesaled 1 deal, and I replaced my income. But it was replacing income by working a fourth of the hours that I was working in the medical field. And I was bringing our new baby, with me everywhere, or I was working from home, like I would pick up the phone and call sellers while he napped, or I would take him with me to construction sites and, like have the contractors take care of him while I went in and like made sure everything was, I was like, "Here, can you hang on to my baby for a second? I got to go in and like make sure you guys are where you're at, where you're supposed to be." I mean, he came everywhere with me. And we slowly turned it into a full-time business because I saw the potential of what it could do if I could replace my income in such a short period of time while I was hanging out, as a new mom with my stepson and the baby, I just saw the potential that it could give us in our life. And so we turned it into full time. And now we work both together full time in the business.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. It's a great story. I think that you guys have a lot to unpack here. The first thing I wanted to ask with this is, where are you guys at right now? What are you guys up to right now? What's the world like for you?
The world, we call it our chaotically beautiful life.
Yeah, I can imagine.
There's a lot of chaos in our life, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. In fact, I can't promise you that my kids won't come barging in here at any second because they're home this week. They were supposed to be in camp, but someone got COVID and they shut the camp down. And like ever since COVID, it's so hard to even plan one day versus like the whole summer. So they're home with me. My husband was supposed to be on here today, but he's getting his pilot's license and he's currently up in the air right now flying. So he's not here. And literally the conversation this morning, and this is like how as soon as we wake up, we start talking about like our business, because that's our life. And I'm like, why did you schedule this during the podcast recording? He's like, this has been on the calendar for 3 months. I did it. And I'm like, well, what happened here? He's like, oh my gosh, it changed. That's what happened. So this is like, it's constant business and life and kids. And I wouldn't change it for anything, because that is what like gets me up in the morning. And that is what gets me excited. So right now we are actually transitioning we still do single family. That's what we've primarily done over the last 9 years. We've sold a lot of our single family rentals that we had these last 5 to 6 years. And now we're trying to transition to more of the multifamily space, land development, commercial space. So we're currently looking for land because we want to develop an RV park, because we see a huge need for that down here in Florida. With COVID, the sales in RVs went crazy through the roof because people were now taking their vacations on the road. And with more people home, working from home, you can now do that. You can work from the road. I know a few friends that bought an RV this year, exact same situation. COVID hit, they wanted to travel. Husbands and wives are working from home, so why not like take this show on the road with the kids? So we just see a huge need there. We just see a lot of opportunities right now that we are slowly transitioning and getting into. And my husband, he has now taken really more of a full-time role in our business, where in the last 9 years, it was me negotiating the deals, going to the houses, talking to the sellers, running the renovations. I was kind of always the front end, the front side of the business, and he was more in the background, getting marketing out, working on our systems, making sure Podio is up and running correctly. Where we're starting to transition now, and he's going to be the face of the business, where he's going to be out there negotiating, because as our family has grown and as the kids have gotten older, it's actually gotten more demanding as they've gotten older, with like activities and sports and all different kinds of things. And I don't want to miss out on that. They are in school during the day, but like at 3:00, my day, it transitions into my next job, which is mom and taxi driver. And so, we want to grow our family still. So we're making that transition right now. And it's been, I'm not going to lie. It's had its challenges.
Yeah, for sure. I think that you seem to be the person that's up for it though. So that's always a good thing. I wanted to ask you too, I wanted to go all the way back to some of the early days, because a lot of people may be at that point where you guys are just, getting started. You guys have some momentum now. You have a little bit more of a vision. You have clear indication of where you want to go. How did real estate pop up? I know that like you said that Howie just kind of grabbed you on the couch and said, we got to do something different. But
Right.
Where did real estate come from? Where did that inspiration strike you from?
I think it came from Howie, because he had been in real estate before. And so he knew what real estate could give us financially and the lifestyle that we wanted. But he was going back into the IT world, and he was really busy. He had a full-time job at that point. And we looked at what I was making as a physical therapist versus what he was making in the IT world. And it just made sense that if one of us was going to do real estate, that it be me, to lose that income. it was going to be easier to replace my income than it was going to replace his. And we also knew that I was going to be a new mom soon. I wasn't going to be able to go into the office when I had the baby. I was 5 months pregnant when we started going to events and taking courses and I was educating myself. And so I knew I had a period of time after the baby was born that I was going to be home anyway. So why not just jump into this and try to make it work? And I was working part-time until our son was born. But then after our son was born, I remember like 2 weeks after he was born, meeting up with a real estate coach outside at a Starbucks. And I was like, I got to do this. Like, I need help. I need someone to hold my hand, and I'm ready to do this. And, my son was a few weeks old when I went to that first event. And so that's really where the inspiration came from, is I just knew there was a huge gap between where we were and where we wanted to be. And I didn't want to wait decades to fill that gap by saving and slowly investing. Like, I wanted to fill that gap now because we were starting our family and we wanted to do all the fun things, right? That I had shared with you in the beginning of this podcast. I've always had this, I've always had this urgency, this like sense of urgency. Sometimes it's almost, maybe it's not so healthy, because sometimes I'm like so impatient that I want it like right now, but it's an urgency that has always like driven me. And I think that Howie has that same kind of urgency, that if we want something, like we will do nothing, like we will do everything in our power, like nothing's going to stop us until we get to it. And we want to get to it as quick as possible, because I don't know, life is short.
I can totally relate with that sense of urgency, Kari, because that's exactly what I've got. And I completely know where you're coming from. And I think that's an awesome thing to have. Some people say it's a curse, but I think for us, it's a blessing, because we're able to really make things work and really set goals and delineate what's important to us. But what I wanted to ask you, though, in regards to where you got your inspiration for real estate, you explained to me before that you had said, I've never owned anything in my life. Mm-hmm. And then Howie says, we've got to get into real estate. And I guess he had a background in it, but most couples, it takes a lot more than one conversation for someone to get on board to say, okay, sure, I'm going to do an about face and just switch up my entire paradigm and start learning how to invest in real estate, or learning how to at least do sales in real estate, or however that happened. Can you maybe walk us through some of the inner workings of your thinking when this was being brought to your attention?
That is a good question. I think that why Howie and I fell in love in the first place is because we have the same urgency. We have the same we share the same values and belief system around life. And we're both really, really driven and ambitious. And it's interesting because when we first met, I didn't want to get married. He didn't want to get married. I didn't want to have kids. He didn't want to have kids. Now we're married with 3 kids and 2 dogs and multiple businesses. And so it's funny how your thinking changes when you meet the right person, right? But I think that Howie and I, we've been described as being the mad crazy ones. Like, as soon as we have an idea and we like the idea, we just go for it. There's no second guessing it, even if it's a crazy idea, like getting our pilot's license, like leaving our job after I literally had just graduated 3 years ago. It took me 6.5 years to get that degree. I hadn't even yet started climbing the corporate ladder. And it was like, oh, there's something better out there. Okay. Like, that's what we're going to do then. And I think that's always been, again, this can be a blessing and a curse, because some people will say that that's impulsive. And we've made a lot of impulsive decisions, but I wouldn't say they're completely impulsive, because we do think about it, right? We're not just like, that sounds good, let's do it. We really think about, like, what could this do? Are other people doing this, and are they successful at it? Because if other people are doing it and they're successful at it, then we can be successful at it because we all put on our pants the same way in the morning. There's like nothing that separates me from them except maybe experience, right? Which comes over time and which comes with doing it. So I think when we first talked about this, we were in such a, when you get into a place where you want something so bad and your current situation is not getting you there, and you have this idea that's really not, I didn't invent real estate. It's not like we just came up with this business like, oh, we're going to invent the first app to do this. It wasn't like that. It was okay, real estate has been around for thousands of years. People, the most wealthy people in the world have used real estate to get them there. There are plenty of people out there who can help us. There's plenty of free information out there that can educate us. Why not? Like, it was kind of a no-brainer. I'm smart. I know if I can get a physical therapy degree, I can learn real estate investing. It's just really a matter of time and energy putting it into it, I thought in the beginning, but it was actually a lot of getting over my own limiting beliefs around a lot of things. But as soon as we started to gain momentum with that first flip and then the second flip, and all of a sudden I replaced the income, it was like, I don't ever want to go back. And I remember there was a few times in our business, because it hasn't all been rainbows and puffy clouds these last 9 years. There's been a lot of challenges. And there was a few times in the beginning where I said, maybe I just need to go back to physical therapy. And my husband would say, we can't look back. Like, if you want to keep moving forward in life, you can't look back, because what's back there is what we left, and we left it for a reason. And if we go back to that, we're always going to wonder what could have been if we just kept moving forward. So he really pushed me a lot. I mean, he was a big coach in the beginning for me, because I was the one that was going out there learning this, and I was in the trenches of real estate. Which it can feel like that sometimes in the beginning. You feel like you're getting beat up. But
Oh, yeah.
he was there to coach me through it, because I needed a lot of coaching when it came to the mental part of this business. So inspiration, I just think that it was just, we wanted a different life, and we knew that real estate has given the life that we wanted to a lot of other people out there that have done it. And I go by what Tony Robbins says, is that success leaves clues. If you want to be successful, you've got to model someone who's successful. It's as easy as that. Whatever they're doing, model that. And so we got a coach. We started going to the events. I started getting really excited. What I like about real estate is actually there's a lot of similarities between real estate and the medical world, because you've got to diagnose problems. You've got to diagnose houses. You've got to put together, in the medical field, you put together a plan of care. Okay, this person has a bad knee. Where is that pain coming from? What are we going to fix? We might work on the neck, because the neck is actually affecting the way they're walking, and that's what's causing the knee pain. Like, you're constantly looking at all of the different pieces to develop that plan of care for the patient. It's kind of the same thing in the real estate world. When we're buying off-market properties, we're dealing with sellers who don't want to list it. They've got some maybe problems or issues or things that they're going through. And it's our job now to like diagnose the issues, and then to take all these issues, their motivation, the value of the house, the repairs that are needed on the house, what our best exit strategy might be on it, and put it together. And I think of it as like my plan of care. Like, what's my plan of care here? And how can I put together an offer that's going to make sense for them, that's going to make sense for us? It's very, very similar when it comes to the creativity part. And so I started getting really excited around that too.
Kari, that is so awesome. Thank you for sharing that, because I'm from the medical world too, and I love that analogy, and I love how simply you put it. And it's very inspiring to hear where you started and where you are now. And when you mentioned limiting beliefs, I wanted to kind of follow up on that too, and just ask you, like, what specifically were your limiting beliefs, simply for our listeners, because oftentimes their limiting beliefs will stop them in their tracks. It sounds like for you and Howie, you guys just like blazed past them regardless. But what advice do you have for our listeners that have certain limiting beliefs? And if you can share your own and how you got past that as well.
The chokehold of any business is the business owner. The chokehold of anything that's not happening in your life the way that you want it to be going, whether that be your health, your relationship, your business, the chokehold is you. That is my belief system. And, it's not, when you look at someone's life, it's not just their business. I remember going to an event one time and they had us fill out this wheel, and the wheel had spiritual, health, finances, relationship, and you had to mark on a scale of 1 to 10 where you thought you were on this circle. And so if you were a 10 in all areas, it was a perfect wheel. But if you were like a 3 in relationship and a 10 in business and a 5 in finances, well, that wheel is not going to run very smoothly, is it? When you put it on the car and you've got a 3 here and a 10 here, it's going to be a very bumpy, challenging road, right? And so our goal is to have 10s in all areas of our life, or 8s, or, but in order to do that, you got to work on yourself a lot of times. And I think so many of us will blame all these external causes for why we have failed in our health, why we have failed in our marriage, why we have failed in our business. And your biggest resource is yourself. When you look at people in this world that have been successful, that came from nothing, like Mother Teresa, like Gandhi, like Nelson Mandela, they came from nothing, but they used themselves as the resource to get the success that they had in their life, because they had a mission and they had a purpose, and the purpose and the mission was bigger than themselves. And so for me, when I first started out in real estate, my purpose was much, much bigger than myself. It wasn't just about replacing the income, because replacing the income, okay, I've replaced my income. So what? What does that give me? It gave me freedom to spend the time with my son. When I thought about putting him in daycare and going to a 9-to-5 job, that just wasn't for me. And so the pain of having to do that versus the pain of having to get over myself and pick up the phone and call sellers and negotiate deals that I had never negotiated before, that pain of going back to the 9-to-5 was much more painful than the pain of just getting over myself. So that was number one, is just having a purpose that was much bigger than myself. And, everyone talks about like, what's your why? Create a why list. And at first, when I started out, I don't think I was really connecting with why I was doing this. And I think that's why it took me so long. It took me a year almost of educating myself and going to the events and going to the seminars. And conceptually, I knew everything about real estate investing at that point, to get started at least. But I wasn't pushing myself to get started. I wasn't taking action. I was kind of in between that knowing, doing gap that a lot of us fall into, where we know what we're supposed to be doing, but we're not doing anything about it. And so we're in this like gap, we're in this like pit. And the only way to get out of that pit, that gap, is to start doing what you were supposed to be doing. And it wasn't until I got really, really clear with why I was doing it was when I started to take action on it. And honestly, one of my number one reasons was to prove my family wrong, because I had a lot of other people in my life that were afraid of what I was doing. They were scared that I was leaving my corporate job so early on. They were afraid I was going to lose money. They were like, what are you doing starting a real estate investing business? I didn't have a lot of support in other areas. And like, my strongest why was to prove them wrong. And that was what got me up out of bed every single morning, was like, oh my God, if I fail, they are right. So I can't fail. But it really was about proving myself wrong. is what I realized later on. And it's funny, I do real estate with my family now. They come to me for real estate advice. I've helped them sell their homes. We've owned homes together. So I've kind of brought them into my world. And so I proved them wrong a long time ago. But it really was about proving it to myself. And I had to get over a lot of limiting beliefs to prove it to myself. And I still have limiting beliefs. I don't know that we're ever completely 100% over our limiting beliefs, because our beliefs will grow as we grow. Back then, my limiting belief was I could never flip a house. Like, I've never done a construction job before. I don't even know what end of a hammer to hold. Never mind run a crew, a renovation, and make it profitable from start to finish. There's a lot of pieces that go into that. My limiting belief was, how can I do this while being a mom? How can I run a family and run a business at the same time? I had another limiting belief about, me and Howie doing this together. Will our marriage survive as business partners? Being a married couple is one thing. Being a married couple with kids, well, now you've just added another stress level onto that. Being a married couple with kids, with multiple businesses and your business partners, I mean, that is adding just another level of complexity onto your life. And so I had a lot of limiting beliefs around that. But getting myself out of that knowing doing gap, because you're not going to do anything when you fall into that gap. You're just going to float around in life when you fall into that gap. And it's such a waste, because you've spent all this time learning what you're supposed to be doing. Conceptually what you're supposed to be doing, but then you don't do it. That's like worse than never starting in the first place to me. So I just had to get out of my way and start doing things. And it's interesting. I just read Mel Robbins' 5-Second Rule book, which is an excellent book. And I think that I've always implemented that rule, not realizing that I was implementing it until I just read her book. And it's the counting down from 5, 3, 2, 1. If you have something that's really difficult that you need to do, like picking up the phone to give a seller an offer, if you have something really, really difficult like that, you just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just go. It's almost like a rocket taking off, because she says in that 5-second period, when you have an idea to do something like, oh, I've got to pick up the phone right now. In 5 seconds, after 5 seconds period of time, you're going to talk yourself out of it. If you can implement and take action within that first 5 seconds, you just force yourself to do it. And it's so simple, I know, but I think I've always implemented that, where if I was afraid to do something, I would just kind of like count down and just do it. And that slowly got me over the limiting beliefs. Is when you start to see results, it naturally diminishes those limiting beliefs that you have. And then, of course, as you grow, you start to have new limiting beliefs. Can we develop an RV park? Can we do multi-million dollar multifamily projects? Can we scale this while continuing to grow our family? Those weren't my limiting beliefs in the beginning. I didn't even know that those were limiting beliefs in the beginning. Like, I wasn't there. I was thinking about picking up the phone and like talking to a single family home seller, right? So these are like new challenges that I need to slay. So I don't know that I will never probably say I have absolutely no limiting beliefs in my life, because those limiting beliefs that I have right now are pushing me. Like, I've got to prove it again to myself that I can set out on these new endeavors that we want to accomplish. Because right now my limiting beliefs are saying, Kari, Howie, you can't do this. Like, this is too much right now. You're doing too much. You're taking on too much. And if I see results, then I know those limiting beliefs will get replaced with bigger limiting beliefs, and bigger and bigger and bigger. And as my limiting beliefs get bigger, so do my results.
Kari, that is so inspiring. Everything you just said, there's so much wisdom to unpack there. And thank you for sharing that, because I think, again, I want to speak specifically to the women out there who may be intimidated, who may have the limiting beliefs, who may think, oh, well, this is a male dominated space. This is, I don't have the XYZ, right? You name it. And so I think it's so powerful what you're saying, because we're addressing those things. And I love what you said about as your limiting beliefs, they grow with you as you grow. And so it's actually such a positive spin on that. Also wanted to ask a follow-up question about, because it sounds like although you guys have so much good stuff going on in it, and you used the word, I think it was like magical chaos or something earlier.
Our beautiful chaos.
Beautiful chaos. Yeah. I want to ask you, how, like, do you guys have systems? Like, what do you do? What does a day in your life look like? What does balance look like, if balance even exists for you guys?
Yeah, that's interesting. So I actually just recently went to Texas on a girls' trip. So I still have 5 girlfriends from, some of them I've known from elementary school up through middle school and high school. We all grew up in Rhode Island, and we all still stay connected almost on a daily basis through group text messaging. One of them just had a baby, and we're all going through our own challenges, ups and downs. And so we still stay really connected to each other. And so there was 3 of us that went out and had a girls' trip in Texas, because we hadn't seen each other in a while. And one of our girlfriends just moved out there. And it was very last minute. 2 of them are stay-at-home moms, so they figured out and coordinated it with husbands and babysitters and stuff. But then the other one just had a baby, and then the other one has a full-time job. And for me, I'm kind of like in between. I am a stay-at-home mom, but I also run a business, and so I coordinated it. But I said, while I'm out there, I'm probably going to have to work a little bit. Like, I'm going to make this happen, but I'm going to have to take my work with me, because I can't just up and leave the business, but I can take it with me. So we were out there for like 5 days. And so I would like open up my laptop in the mornings and do some work, and then I'd be checking my emails throughout the day. And then once in a while, my husband would call, because we'd have to have a business meeting. And so I was in the hotel room, and him and I were going back and forth on this issue in our business. And so I was like, okay, well, I love you. I'll talk to you later. We've got to get going. And so I hung up the phone, and my girlfriend was like, I don't know if I could ever work with my husband. Because they heard me stepping into like business role, because I didn't sound like a wife. I sounded like a business partner. And I'm like, no, this is what we need to do. I think that this is the best course of action, right? I wasn't like, okay, babe, well, I love you, but this is, we all have different roles in our life. We really all have multiple personality. It's not a disorder, but we have multiple personalities, right? Because we wear different hats. So I have the mom hat, and I speak to my kids differently than I speak to my husband. And then I speak to my husband differently when we're romantic dinner or we're on a business call, right? And so I guess I was in my business mode, and we were talking, and all was good, right? We said, I love you. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the course of action we're taking. And okay, you go your way, I go my way, and I'll talk to you later. And so I think they heard me talking to him in business mode, and they were like, are you guys okay? And I was like, yeah, we're fine. Why? And they're like, I don't know. Like that must be really hard, like working with your husband. And I was like, yeah, it is. But like, I don't know. There's really no balance in our life. It's all integrated. I don't think that there's work-life balance when you have so much going on, because you only have 24 hours in a day. If I have 10 hours of work and 10 hours with kids and, an hour with my husband, well, I can't live off of 3 hours of sleep, right? So we're constantly integrating our life, our business and our kids and our marriage. They're all kind of melded together. My husband wants to go out to Cocoa Beach on Saturday, because we're speaking with this owner on a piece of land out there that could be potential for development. And he's like, hey, do you want to go out to Cocoa on Saturday? And I'm like, sure. Like, we'll bring the kids, we'll go look at the land, we'll talk with the owner, and then we'll head out to the beach. Like, we're always thinking, okay, like, how can we make this work with kids and us? And then, and then we'll come home, and maybe we'll get a babysitter, and like me and you will go out to dinner and talk about the deal. So we're always integrating everything. When we go out to dinner, we talk about our kids, and we talk about our business, and we talk about all the things in our life because that's what gets us excited. Like, I don't say, okay, I've got to turn off work right now. Like, let's just go out and have dinner, because honestly, we'd sit there and stare at each other and have nothing to say. Like, this is our life. And you've got to be passionate about your business. And both of you have to be really passionate about it if you're going to go into business with your spouse, I think, because if one person isn't passionate about it and the other is, and the other one wants to talk about it all the time, and the other one's like, I want to check out for a little while, it just doesn't work. And luckily for us, both of us are really, really passionate about what we do in our business, so that if we go out on date night and we talk about our business, it doesn't feel like work to me. I get inspired, I get energized by it. We'll even sometimes take like a legal pad and paper, sitting by the candlelight with our glass of wine and our sushi, talking about, hey, like, what could we do? Like, and sometimes we don't, right? And sometimes it's not all business, but our day in and day out is business, kids, and our relationship. Like, those are the three things that we talk about. Those are the three things that we take action on. Those are the three things that we schedule. We have a Google Calendar, and our calendars run our life. And I remember showing this to one of my girlfriends. I was looking at my calendar and she saw that like my husband and I share calendars. So I can go on his calendar and see what he's doing. He can go on mine. We're inviting each other to events. It's color coded because I've got business events. My kids are color coded in a different color. So he knows, like, if I'm driving them to practice, he can already see the color and he knows I'm with kids right now. Like, that runs our life, our calendars, and we share it and we double book each other, like I did today on the podcast. He was supposed to be here and I double booked us. And it's funny because, again, I don't look at it as work. It's just like a tool in our life that we use to run our life, because our life is complex. We do not have a simple life, and we've built it that way because we love the complexity. Because if it was a simple life, I think I would get bored if I had a simple life. And this complex life is not for everyone. It's hard and it has its challenges. But with my husband and I think that it has made us so much stronger as a married couple because we face so many challenges together. It's not like he's at work facing a challenge and I'm at home facing a challenge with the kids. Like, we're constantly trying to overcome issues and problems and problem solving together. And we spend 1 hour every single day, almost every single day. Sometimes we miss it, but 1 hour every single day. It's our business meeting. We call it our trampoline time, which has a whole nother story behind it. But it's because we know when we get together for 1 hour a day and we put his mind with my mind, we can get so much more done than when we're like separated all day working on issues and not consulting with each other. Even though it might be something that is not in his lane, it's not in his role in our business, but I need help. Like, I need help problem solving. If I can come to him with it, like, we're so much better. And because we're constantly doing that, it just makes us better communicators when it comes to our marriage and our relationship. It makes us better communicators when it comes to our kids, because we're constantly working together on all areas of our life, even our health. Like, we work out together. And some people might say, like, that's just way too much time with my spouse. Like, I need my away time. And we do get our away times from each other, but we are together a lot of times. And we are together working on all the different pieces of our life a lot.
Thank you.
So you also have to like each other.
Yes,
that is the foundation behind it all. But yeah, it sounds like we have to
like each other.
it sounds like we have quite a bit in common, a lot more than I thought too, because it sounds, all the things from the calendars to the integration time, all that stuff seems very, very familiar to me. And it sounds like it may be a common thread with a lot of successful entrepreneur couples. And so I'm glad to see that we're working pretty much along the same vein there. It's pretty good. Now, what I want to do is because we're getting close to the end of the time here today, I want to transition over to the 5 questions that we ask. It's called the rapid round here. And so we're going to go ahead and ask you those questions one right after the other. And hopefully, we can keep it short so that you can, get some nice, quick bullets of wisdom for each of our listeners here. So in the rapid round, the first question, I think I may already know the answer to this one, is what book has had the biggest impact on you and why?
Oh, wow. What book has the biggest impact on me and why? If I had to choose a business book, I think this is a lot of people in the real estate world, is Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Classic.
And Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. Those are like the two books that I can reread, and still every year I reread them and get
something new.
Get something from it. Yeah.
Awesome. Number 2, if people wanted to be just like you guys, what's the first actionable thing that they could do to follow in your footsteps?
To think big, to think in terms of growth, just to never get complacent and get comfortable. We're not comfortable ever. We're always uncomfortable, but it's always why we're growing too.
Of course. All right. Number 3, what small thing do most people not know about you?
When my husband and I first met, we, again, thought it would be great to go and just do this really crazy adventure. Had never been to Africa before. Him and I had just started dating, and I was like, hey, do you want to go to Africa for like 3 weeks? So we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. We made it to the summit. We had never climbed a mountain before either. So that was like one of the first things that we did that was challenging together.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Wow. Cool story. How do you like to unwind and restore your own creative juice just by yourself?
I love listening to podcasts. I love running. I haven't been running in a while just for a couple different health reasons. So I just went and got my new sneakers yesterday. Running and listening to like something inspiring is like the ultimate, it's just like the ultimate inspiration, and it's like relaxation. Very to cool. Me. Weird.
Yeah, those endorphins, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the final question that we have is, where do you and your spouse like to travel? Or is there anything that you guys like to do together?
We just recently, 5 years ago, started doing 1 a year ski trips with the kids. So we started out in Utah, then we went to Colorado, we've done New Hampshire, North Carolina. So this year we're going back out to Utah for Christmas. We're doing like a whole 10-day Christmas trip with the kids, and we're going to go skiing. So that has been going out west to the mountains to go skiing with the family, because it's one of the activities that you can do no matter what age you're at. You can all do it together. Like every age enjoys it. So it's like, we love it. That is like, we're actually looking for a house out there that we can spend part of the year out there.
Amazing. That's very cool. Nice. Well, maybe we'll see you out here in Utah or in the West Coast at some point, because that's where we tend to gravitate towards, right? So
it's beautiful out there.
Yeah, we love it here. But anyway, that's pretty much it. That's all that we have for you guys on the show. But what I do want to do, Kari, for courtesy for the audience members so that they can find out more about you, tell us how people can learn more about what you guys have to offer and how people can be more involved in your world.
So we have a podcast called The Investor Warrior. You can also find me on Facebook, Kari Lyke. We have a private Facebook group too for The Investor Warrior. Or you can just email me at Kari, Kari, @theinvestorwarrior.com.
Excellent. That sounds fantastic. I will probably be emailing you about that. I want to check out more. So that's awesome. Yeah. Well, very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We were really happy to have you. And, maybe next time we'll have Howie on as well. And,
yes.
Sorry that Sophie keeps disappearing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kari, for being on. And yeah, we look forward to learning more about your adventures and seeing how things unfold for you guys. I'm sure it's going to be very successful, and everything that you have ever wanted is going to start manifesting. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah. And for those of you listeners who have made it all the way to the end of the show, thank you guys. And we really, really would appreciate if you guys could leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to this, if it's on iTunes or if it's on Stitcher or SoundCloud. Anywhere you're listening to this, I would really appreciate you guys leaving a review so that the algorithm gods can help push us up the list so that we can get exposure to more people and help expose more people to the joy of real estate investing and doing it together with your spouse. So that being said, that's it. This is Derek.
And this is Sophie.
Signing off. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful week.